Hey there, hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to be showing how to deal with problems in business. Thanks for watching this video. Who am I? My name is Diego. I'm 19 years old, believe it or not. And my main thing is I help e-commerce businesses scale through organic and paid traffic. But I'm not going to be talking about that today. In fact, I'm going to be talking about something mindset related. I guess something maybe not in my full area of expertise, but something I have a good understanding about. And, as a young entrepreneur, I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this. So, in this video, I'm going to be discussing life being full of problems, what not to do in dealing with problems, and how you can avoid them. So, as I mentioned earlier, life is full of problems. Whether it's holding a grudge against a peer, maybe losing a loved one, or maybe another tragic event, we all deal with problems in one form or another, right? And in business, it's not that much different. As an entrepreneur, you're bound to go through problems and setbacks. It's just a matter of how you deal with them. And I mean, you're even solving a problem with your own business, right? That's kind of the point of a business, right? You're solving an issue that other people need, and you're solving an issue that the market wants to hear. I mean, even though a lot of the times you're not really reinventing the wheel, you're still solving a problem to the point where it's convenient for someone, whether it's locally, whether it's online, whether it's on a national or international level. You're either way, you're solving a problem that people need. And despite that, we all go through problems within ourselves or within our businesses. So the question is, how do you go about these issues? Before we get into that, I'm gonna go into what not to do, and what not to do is to not bitch or complain. Might be obvious, but people miss this almost every single time, right? They always complain. They always something to fuss about, and I understand it is natural to do that, but you have to, as an entrepreneur, you got to evolve yourself out of that, and you have to tell yourself that it's all going to be fine, and you're going to get through it, and you can't just sit there and complain while it gets worse for you. So you shouldn't be doing that. And instead of wanting to solve the problem, um, people crumble up or complain because of X reason, right? And the reality is you have to acknowledge the issue and work to solve it as you do with any problem, right? So as an entrepreneur, you're meant to solve problems even if you're not reinventing the wheel, like I mentioned earlier. If you're not solving any of these problems, let alone the ones that you're going to, how do you expect to become a successful business owner, or let alone kill it in entrepreneurship? Like, how do you expect to become, the next, Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk? And it's not to say that, you want to be that way. Maybe you have different goals. Maybe you don't want to be a billionaire. Maybe you just want to settle in with a couple $1 million in the bank. Who knows? And that's fine. But how are you going to get there if you're not solving a problem, and if you're not, attempting to deal with the problems that you're going through right now, or you crumble when you're given a setback or a situation like that? How can you expect to become successful if you're not in an area of uncomfortability, right? Acknowledging the issues and working to fix them should be the number one thing on your mind, instead of complaining and you know doing stuff that holds you back from progress. Do not let the problem sit there, and that's the next one. The last thing you want to do is let the problem sit there. This it's the only that just makes it worse. This is letting a problem sit there and allowing it to grow into something worse. It's just not something that you want to do, because it's almost like a compounding effect, and it's kind of like a disease, right? It's like a parasite that won't go away. Maybe it's small at the start, but it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and starts to become irritating and really does bother you over time. And that's something you don't want to do, because another issue, uh, it's another issue that sounds very obvious, but people tend to miss this one just as badly as the first one. And you want to avoid this mistake at all costs, no matter how severe the problem is. You just got to solve it at the end of the day. And yeah, pretty much you just don't let the problem sit there. Find ways to solve it. And here's the last one before I get into actually how you can go about everything else. Do not, I repeat, do not avoid problems. Run into them. And you might be thinking, like, that makes no sense. Like, that's strange. Why would you avoid problems? Why would you run into problems? Why not avoid them? And, I can understand that line of reasoning, but I mean, why avoid problems when you can embrace them and run into them and, have an unstoppable business from that? Like, why not go through these problems early. Focus on how you can solve, the problems that you may run into or will inevitably run into. And why not solve them and make your business like a immovable object almost? So running into problems to later avoid them while your business is at its peak or at its key allows you to figure out what you need to be working on and solving before it becomes too late. This can cause you to not only destroy your business once it's at a point where it can sustain itself, right? I mean, you're basically, if you're at a level where your business is able to sustain itself, of course, you're still going to run into problems. I'm not saying you wouldn't, but the idea that you're not that you're going to sit there and not have any of these problems and avoid them, you're just setting yourself up for failure almost. And here's my next thing to add to that. How are you, an entrepreneur or someone that wants to change their life for the better, going to avoid problems? What's the point of being an entrepreneur then? Your point is to solve problems and address the market wants. How are you going to sit there and not solve any issue and just think it's all going to be okay and it's all going to be sunshines and rainbows, right? So here's an example, right? And another thing, for every problem, more money can be made from it, right? So here's an example. Let's say you have a software business and you notice that your copy in your funnels isn't great or in your advertising isn't great. Why just let it sit there and have it all be sunshines and rainbows and think it's all going to be okay? Like, you could fix it and see how much money you can make from just a simple word change or a sentence change or a phrase change, maybe even change the entire copy. The issue with some entrepreneurs is that they think they can sit there and think avoiding problems is the gateway to success and how they can live stress-free. The reality is you'll never really experience this, especially if you're just starting out. So you have to run into problems, even if it is intentionally not to only make your business an immovable object, like I said earlier, but to prepare you for the later stages of being an entrepreneur, right? That's kind of the whole gist at this point, is that what's the point of avoiding these problems when you can run into them, become unstoppable, and possibly even kill it even more in entrepreneurship, right? It just doesn't make sense to me how people think that avoiding problems is key. You kind of want to run into them sometimes. You kind of want to embrace the problem so that way you always want to be in an uncomfortable scenario because it just motivates you to work harder and get out of it. So now that you know how this works really, here's what you can do to deal with problems. And obviously number one is solve it, but that's a little too vague. So let's get a little more in depth. Focus on ways you can go about these issues, or sometimes even seek others who specialize in fixing these problems you need. It could be in business. It could be like maybe your copywriting sucks. Maybe you get a copywriter that's insane at what he does. Or maybe your ads aren't doing well. Maybe you need another media buyer that's really good. Maybe you're not able to close deals. Maybe you can't effectively send messages at once or so. And, you can get VAs to do that or an appointment setter. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of some of the ways you can solve that problem. But for the one where you can't close deals, you can get a closer, or maybe you can build a sales team, right? Those are just, even though they're not like major ones, issues that you can solve, but there is just some examples. Have a strategy to solve these issues, right? You're always going to want a strategy in one way or another. Persistence and discipline. That's kind of the key one. And always stay positive and move forward. And, to end this video, I want to, give this little quote. If you're a Rocky fan, you probably might know it. It ain't about how hard you hit, but it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. And that's kind of the key here in business, that no matter how, down you are, no matter how much like your back is against the wall or whatever, you always want to move forward and keep that persistent and be persistent and keep your consistency at a high level, because if it's not, you're definitely in trouble for sure. But anyways, that's going to be it for this video. I didn't want to keep it too long. I didn't think I'd ramble for this long, but if you like this video, just be sure to like, comment, and follow or subscribe for more. And yeah, I just hope that you have a great rest of your day and had a great weekend. Thank you.